welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Joe Pallo. He's a sales coach and trainer to top producers who want to double or triple their production. He's an author, he's also a speaker, he's a consultant. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thank you, AJ. Glad to be here.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to India. And I'm sure not only in India, but a lot of people across the globe will be able to benefit from the insights and understanding of this whole sales thing. And we will be talking about, the importance of emotional connections over logic-based sales. My first question to you, Joe, is that where does this emotional connection come into sales? I thought a lot of people just believe in sales, and more sales. No place for logic, no place for great customer experience, no place for anything else. That's what it looks like in today's time. You are talking much more different. You almost talk about, sell nothing. What do you sell? How do you do that? Several things at the same time so that you can answer at your own pace.
Well, I guess I look at it this way. In sales, there's two things that need to happen, or two buckets need to be filled. There's a logical sale. It has to make sense. There's an emotional sale. They're both important. But I realized years ago that the logical sale confirms the sale. It has to happen. But the emotional sale makes it happen. So we need both of them filled, both those buckets filled to get to the next step. Now, let's talk about the buckets. The logical bucket is filled with my voice. I'm the salesperson, and it's pretty much math. And I've got a marketing department that gives me all this information, and I can just go out and say and nail that and fill that bucket. The emotional bucket is filled with their voice. And emotions are weird and fickle things, and they change all the time, and they don't make sense. But it's what they want and why they want it. And maybe I'll use a quick example. We've all had these sales meetings on a scale of 1 to 10. They're just a 10. We knocked it out of the park. We walk in, he's laughing at our jokes, he's asking questions, and just these great meetings. And he says, "Can you come back in 2 weeks? And I want to see your proposal." So I come back in 2 weeks, and I'm getting ready to come in there. But this time his admin walks me down the hall, and he says, "Hang on, I'm coming in. I got to finish this email." And you're ready to go for the second meeting. You're still excited about it. And he goes, "Two things. I got called across town. I have to cut this short. Let's see your pitch." And you jump back in and you start talking about it, but it's a different meeting. And you walk out of there with, "I need to think about it." That's the big difference. That first meeting, we had both buckets filled. When I come back in 2 weeks later, the logical bucket's still full. The emotional bucket, that has holes in it. And he's not going to re-engage until I get them to say what he wants and why he wants it. Once that emotional bucket is filled, then I'll get my next step. The logical bucket, it's like, do you have a bucket of water? You can't put more water in it. If it's full, you can't have it. If you have a client who's logically sold, we can't sell logic. And the problem in sales is we go in and we have that meeting, we fill both buckets. We come back to second meeting, whether it's 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 months, and we just sell logic again. So selling nothing is the opportunity to have them say what they want and why they want it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does, Joe. But does it make sense to a salesperson on the ground? Because he or she has got targets to meet, and the boss or his manager and the super boss, maybe if it's a small company, the founder of the company, the owner of the company, they want sales from you at whatever cost. So how does that work with the training that you give? It is like, you suddenly start speaking the truth where the world is not so truthful. How does it work? And in a world which has already seen so much of salesy and false pitches, if I may use that thing, then how does the customer even understand or believe your true intentions about building an emotional connection? How does it work in this time, in these times, if we can call it?
Well, there's two things. I'll say Whoever is talking is buying. In a selling situation, if I'm talking more than you are, I am buying your objections. If I get you talking more than me, you're buying whatever I say. And in sales, so many people come in and do the show up, throw up, and just puke about how good and great and wonderful they are. I've got a process, and it's in sales. We have a plan. It's like we have a battle. We have battle plans, and the battle starts. You throw the plans out the window. We have a sales plan. The sales meeting starts, and we throw it out the window. But this is an acronym. It's called earning, and it's very applicable to any sales process. Earning, EARNING, and each letter stands for a process or question I want them to tell me. I look at it from the process that doctors can't fix you until you tell them how and why. I can't sell anyone until they tell me how and why. And this earning process does that. The E just stands for I need to evaluate their current reality. That's our data gather. And I think a lot of sales programs, and they're trained to do that, and they're pretty good at that. But I have to ask enough questions. If I'm making an apples to apples comparison, I have to ask enough questions so I know what type of apples they have. If I'm showing something different, apples to oranges, I still have to ask enough questions so I know what type of apples we're starting with. That's the E. The A is I want to ask them, what do you like about your current vendor? What are the advantages? A is for the advantages. What do you have that's going really good? And I get pushback. People saying, Joe, I don't want to ask that question because I'm talking them in to stay with their current vendor. And I disagree with that because, one, I get different results because I do things different. Two, asking what they like about their current vendor is just screaming confidence. And people, sales are given to confident people. But the biggest reason when I ask what do they like, they're telling me their hot buttons. That's what whatever I'm going to close in 5 minutes or 5 weeks, I'm going to have some of that, and I'm not going to know. So that's the E and the A. The R is revise. What do they want to change? This is the major reason why they're going to go forward. I don't lead off with it. I want to ask what are their current reality. I want to evaluate their current reality. I want to ask what do they like? What do they want to change? This is, again, the major region. And I think right now we're so busy. If I'm sitting in front of somebody, they have a problem with sales or their team. Otherwise, I would not be there. If you're sitting and talking to somebody, there's a problem because we're just too busy. That's the EAR. N. No. Who can say no to this? Who else needs to be in the room? Sometimes I'll disengage and I won't give the presence. Sometimes you can't. But if I don't have decision makers in the room, I really don't want to go forward. It's one of the worst things is, great, Joe, sounds good. I got to go talk to my boss. And it's great. Now I got to come back in 2 weeks and do my dog and pony show again. Or worse, you're going to sell my product for me and you're not an expert on it. You're going to sell me for me and you're not an expert on it. So I want to know who else needs to be involved. Who can say no? The I. This is the key point. Interpret back what you just heard. Just say, hey, just for clarity, I'm just going to repeat back what you just said just to make sure we're on the same page. And it does a lot of things where I hear things like, well, crap, Pallo, you said it better than I did. Or mentally, I'm on the same side of the table as they are. And he's thinking, this guy gets me. I have not even started selling. It's a great spot to be in. The second N is nothing. What if nothing changes? I have to ask that because that gets a sense of urgency. And I'm going to get a fluff answer. We'll be the same. I said, no, what else? I want to get that because if I don't get that sense of urgency, they're going to kick the can, call me back in a month, call me back next quarter. But I want to say, what else happens? If this was fixed, if this is not fixed, what does that look like next year? And then the G is just the gain. If we fix this problem, if we move this, if you freed up these 2 hours, what can you do with that time? And that's it's a free download. Go convertsalesfaster.com. Convertsalesfaster.com. It's a free download where I walk people through that piece. Did that answer your question? I know it was a long answer, but hopefully I was answering your question.
Absolutely. It's a very important answer, the earning sales system. And so which one of these, so many points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So all these 7 points, which one is the most important for a salesperson during that conversation that is happening?
I honestly think it's the interpret back. Biggest complaint in sales is no one's listening to me. And it's not about me. I need them to say what they want and why they want it. That's all the earning piece with that. And this, again, it just disarms them. And they know that I'm really trying to figure out what they want rather than just sell my product. It's easier to sell what they want to buy versus selling what I want to sell. If I don't go through this process, I'm just selling whatever I want to sell. This gets them a chance to say what they want to buy, and I just sell that.
So why so much gets lost in the interpretation part? Where is it that they are not able to listen, understand, and only when you interpret it and check with them whether you have heard it correct, then only the real fact or their requirement and exactly what they want comes out. Why is it that is it the most important uh, part of this whole seven thing process that you say? Why is interpretation so important, and why have we been lacking in this part? What does your training say when you do the training? What does your research say during that?
I think it validates what they're saying. And that is a big piece. And not only that they have a problem, but I'm taking the time to listen to them. And it's maybe it's called servant selling. I want to be able to take care of them, but I'm not, or help them. I'm not going to. I mean, I strive never to teach, speak, train, or coach or sell until I've created space to have that conversation. This interpreting back creates that space. And it kind of sucks the pressure out of the room where you're not coming in trying to pitch your product, whatever it is. It also, I think it's very important because it gives me confidence. I'm a different person. If they just sat there and told me what they want and why they want it, man, I can close pretty easy then. You don't even have to close, really. People are allowed to buy from you versus selling.
Right, right. So does this earning sales system, it can be applied in any industry, any particular sector, all products and services both, or is it only for a particular area?
I believe it's very transferable. Because I work with defense contractors to nonprofits to startups to the top mortgage guy in the United States to Olympic gold medalist. My clientele is very diverse. It's the same principles. People want to be heard. And industry, it doesn't matter. But I'll say this, this process works. How to Sell Nothing, that was my book. It will be up, but the second version of that is how I'll be on leadership, how to lead no one. And basically this process and this principle, I take the word sales out, put the word lead, and it works just as well because we lead our people. Do you lead your people logically? Do you sell logically? We know sales logically doesn't work, but leading people, we do the same thing. So it's very transferable with sales, with leading people, with recruiting, interviewing. It's very versatile.
Right, right. So who is this? Who is this book for? You about how to sell nothing, and then the new book on leadership is coming. Because if leaders are wanting sales and they are not giving that openness or that independence for their salespeople, then how does it work? Does it practically work on the ground for a salesperson? Let me ask you this way: for a salesperson, how does he set that ground for an emotional sale? How does it? What is the starting? Is there a step by step? Is there a getting started point where a salesperson can begin this earning sales system?
I believe it's a relationship sale. It starts right away at the beginning and invalidates them. How to start it, and I coach on this. Let's be hypothetical. If I was talking to you and you're a new client, I'd say, AJ, just thought about how I work is I'm going to ask a lot of questions just to make sure I have a good understanding of where you are. Is that all right? And you'll say, yeah. But I'm also going to ask a lot of questions of, what you like and where you want to go and what your goals are. But I'm going to go a little bit different. I want to ask why you want that. And that may be a different question, maybe a weird question, maybe even goofy. You may not even have answers. But me hearing you say what you want fixed and why you want it makes a difference on how I'm going to help you. But it's important for you to hear yourself say what you want and why you want it because it crystallizes your thinking. So is that all right if I just ask you a bunch of questions throughout our interaction? I've just got the permission there. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. So let me ask you this way. If you know about all these things and you are meeting a potential customer, a decision maker, then what is it that you can still not be able to make an emotional sale? What are the mistakes that one should avoid at that point in time? Obviously, one cannot be perfect. There might be some things that he or she must remember at that point in time.
Yeah, there's two things. I always strive, if someone asks a question, Joe, do you do professional coaching and training? Most people say, yeah, I do it all the time. It's what I do yesterday. It's what I specialize in. I've got, sell nothing, my whole company. I'll say, answer that differently. If someone says, Joe, do you do professional coaching? Say, yeah, I do, but just curious. Just make sure I answer your question right away. What caused you to ask that? In other words, what they ask is important. I want to know why they asked it before I answer it, because my answer is so much better. The other part that I'd say is it goes along with the earning piece. It's what I call dig in questions. Dig in. They give me a what. I want to know the why behind it. And the whole time I'm going through this earning piece, I'm asking digging questions like, what do you mean? Why is that? What does that look like? What else? Can you say that again? Because I'm using that to have them fill up that emotional bucket. That's what they want. And they need to hear themselves say that. So if there's a key piece with this, it's the earning piece married with the dig-ins questions. What do you mean? How so? What does that look like? What else? Can you give me an example? That's what I'm going to close on. That's what I need to close. And I'm not going to do that until I do that. So the biggest mistake I would say is people close without getting them emotionally engaged.
Right. Now let's talk about, you are talking about two buckets. Let's talk about the customer's bucket, and that's full of woes of not such a great customer experience. A lot of salespeople, and especially, not about large companies, but individual sales, individual experiences, or maybe a family experience, somebody comes and sells you. And he is somebody who has been coached by you, trained by you. And he or she wants to make that emotional connection. And the customer who has not had previous good experience or is wary of, the present situation, ask this question that, listen, you will make the sale and then you will vanish, because the customer experience team or customer care team will be totally different. Tell me about you. You sound to be sincere. What about your customer experience or customer care team later on? What should the salesperson say about, because he is there to make that emotional connection? Why I tell this is because this is such a huge problem. A person may be very, very good. He may want to build a good relationship, but his product may also be good, but it might be the worst sales experience that the company is giving. It might be one in the most hated companies that I just recently saw on CNBC. They have also a list of most loved companies. Some companies can tend to be, and nowadays a lot of companies I see tend to put people into a lot of, they put people into a lot of problems, and that is where the third bucket comes in. Maybe a lot of owners want to always think about their own bucket list of fulfilling all their wishes instead of thinking about the bucket full of woes from the customer side.
If I heard the question right, it's what's my thoughts on, I'm coming out, I'm giving good presentation, I'm promising all this great service. We make the sale, I move on, the customer service team comes in, and there's a gap there. Is that accurate? Is that what your question was?
Yes. And if I ask you that, listen, your customer service team sucks, and you are about to make that sale, what would you tell me? Will you agree with me because you want to build an emotional connection? How would you tackle that? Because that's a separate team altogether. If
Right.
you say yes, you will not make the sale. If you say no, you are lying. How does it work?
In that situation, if you said, hey, Joe, I like you, the service we got last time we did this was bad. Right now, I'm not going to go forward until tell me about it. What happened? Because there's emotions, and you need to get that out. You're not going to go forward. And if I just pointed to my customer service team, that's not going to work, because that's the reason he'll not go forward. I'll say, tell me about it. I apologize. It's my fault. I have to take the ownership, even if it's not, because I'm the relationship and I'm the guy. So I would say, tell me about it. Let's hear about it. What else? Okay. Let's go forward and fix that. So that's how I would address it first, is you need to let them air it out. You take ownership of it, again, even if it's not. And then the biggest problem, you mentioned it, is I've got to go to my customer service team and say, all right, we got to fix this, because I'm out there and that's killing my renewals or retentions. It's killing my referrals. I can't grow the business unless I can deliver it. And I need that team in place.
Right. Right, Joe. Now, let me ask you about the 30,000 sales calls over 35 plus years that you have made, and millions of dollars there. If you put all those earnings and learnings together, what would you like to share, especially about the learnings, to the young people who are toiling on the field to make those sales? What should be, apart from the emotional sale? I'm sure there is a lot in the book, but on the practical level, what exactly would be your learning that you'd want to share with them in a nutshell?
Well, I started learning how to sell. I sold books door to door for 6 years. So it was one of the hardest things I've did, but it was most rewarding, and it was challenging. But sales is tough, but it is a process, and you can't wing it. It's a system, and it will work. Not every time, but you got to push through it, and you're going to hear more no's and yeses, and that's part of sales. So biggest part I would say is consistently, people think they can just wing the sales call, and you can't. There has to be a plan and a process in place, and it's repetition. It's role play. It's recording yourself. If you're doing a Zoom and listening it back, it's constantly looking at, what am I doing? So to answer your question, I've learned all my sales just from pure experience. I mean, I've got more no's than most people have. I've probably got more yeses too, but it's that repetition. You have to be willing to put in the work and do that. There's no magic. It's work.
Right, Joe. So, in terms of your, let's go back to the books then. When is the? I guess, is this book out? How to Sell Nothing?
How to Sell Nothing will be out August 1st. That's our projected due date. And I'll probably have a 99-cent Kindle book launch when I do that. But How to Sell Nothing should be out August 1st.
And then you have another version out after that. The leadership.
That one I'm not even quite done with that one yet. So I'm going to back burner that. But that's just the principle of How to Lead No One will be the second volume.
Absolutely. You have shared such great insights, answered some difficult questions, which I also am not a salesperson, but I myself don't know what is wrong, what is right. But one thing I certainly know is that a lot of empathy seems to be vanishing from a lot of companies, even big companies. And I know it because I'm a consumer myself. And I don't need to go anywhere else to find it. It will not be appropriate for me to take examples, especially on my own show, but I know it is one of the very difficult challenges that companies will have to face in the coming future. Another challenge, it could be a challenge, is the AI coming into this. How do you see AI fitting into this sales processes? And is it a threat? Is it a benefit? Is it going to be a hindrance to build that emotional connection with the potential customer? Or is it going to aid that emotional connection to make the right sale without actually selling anything? How does that work? That's my last question to you.
I believe, well, one, we're remote, and the technology piece is pushing us away from that relationship. AI, and I like it, but I'm not familiar with it as some are. I don't see if it's going to really be able to connect that relationship. And it's that relationship, it's ancient. It's us as humans. We're hungry for it. And I think this relationship selling, how to sell nothing, is it's in a relationship. People are hungry for it because they don't know how to get it. And you look at, our kids, and they're on their phones and they're not talking. Or if they do, they rather text. It's a skill that I think it's in our nature that we want to have that relationship. So that is a big problem. I think the technology is kind of pushing us away, but yet at the same time, we're zooming and we're getting close. We have that, but we're not quite there yet. AI, I really can't speak to that. I mean, I like the ideas, but my gut's telling me it's not going to be able to connect with people and make them laugh and make them like them. I don't think it's going to be able to do that. I could be wrong, but I think that's getting a little too far out there for me.
Right, because already there is this problem of chatbots, and when you call customer care, you are never able to reach a human. It is going to be bots, and I don't know it will be less or it's going to be more, but the times are very much, for all to watch out for, and especially for a lot of businesses who actually want to build the right sort of connections with people. But you have answered all these questions very, very well. As I said earlier, difficult ones also. So how, and there is so much to learning, that learning that still needs to be to happen for a lot of people. So this is just one episode of this podcast. For more, how can people come to you and learn more from you? What's the best way to connect with you?
Well, if you want to go to convertsalesfaster.com, that'll download the earning piece, convertsalesfaster.com. Otherwise, you can go to my website, sellnothing.co, not .com. The M was taken. It was too expensive. It's a Bitcoin company bought sellnothing.com. But go sellnothing.co, and you can connect with me on there, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
Absolutely. So with the idea that when you sell nothing, you are actually able to make the best sales. It's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thanks, AJ. I appreciate it.